It's Friday, and it's August 28th, 2020, and I am Michael Campbell, President of the Rails Board, and I'd like to call this meeting to order at 1 p.m. In accordance with the Government Emergency Administrative Act, PA 100-0640, the Rails Board of Directors finds an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent and believes it is in the best interest of Rails to hold a virtual meeting to perform essential business. Just a note, everyone please remember to unmute yourself before you speak, but otherwise please keep your microphones muted. Say your name when you're making a motion or comment, and all votes will be by roll call. Emily, will you please call roll?
Sue Busenberg.
Here.
Michael Campbell.
Here.
Haley Cox. Percy Harris. Diane Hollister.
Here.
Chris Kenny.
Here.
Sarah McCone Chase.
Here.
Paul Mills.
Here.
Jenna Namek-Luisi.
Here.
Scott Poynton.
Here.
Becky Spratford. Is Becky there?
Not yet.
Okay. Thomas Stagg.
Here.
Beth Teppen.
Here.
And Alex Vincina.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Now, we will handle guest and public comments at the same time. Let's start with guest here in Burr Ridge. Deidre, will you start?
Yes, Deirdre Brennan, Rails Executive Director.
Monica Harris, Rails.
Okay, let's move to guest in East Peoria. Anyone?
Randall Orison. That's my hand.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, the Illinois State Library.
Hello, this is Karen Egan. I'm here by myself today.
Okay, thank you. Emily, would you please read the names of the guests who are participating via Zoom?
Sure. Stacy Palmisano, Layla Heath, Anna Bem, Grant Halter, Jim Krieger, Mark Hatch, Mary Witt, Ryan Hebel, and myself. Did I miss anyone?
If Emily has not read your name, please state your name and your affiliation or put it in the Zoom chat so she can read it and add the names to the minutes.
Haley just showed up and it looks like she's having some trouble. Are you okay now?
Yeah,
I can't hear you.
now. Thanks.
All right, we got you, Haley. Thank you.
Welcome,
Thanks,
Haley.
Sarah.
We're handling public comments via Zoom or by previous submission to Emily. Emily, did you receive any comments?
I received no public comments.
Does anyone have any public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda number 5, adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved, McCone Chase.
Sorry. Let her have it.
So I have a move by Scott, and so we'll take a second from Sarah.
Okay.
Okay. Emily, will you please call roll?
Sue Busenberg,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Haley Cox,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna Namek-Luisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Becky Spratford, Yay! Thomas Stagg, Thomas DeVere,
Yes.
Beth Teppen,
Yes.
and Alex Encina.
Yes.
Welcome, Becky.
That was very exciting. That was quite an entrance.
Okay, the agenda is adopted. Next, we'll have the approval of the Rails Board minutes from July 24th. May I have a motion of the approval of the minutes of the July 24th, 2020 Board? We go back for a second. May I have a motion of the approval of the minutes of the July 24th, 2020 Rails Board orientation?
So moved, Diane Hollister.
Thank you,
Second.
Diane.
Alex Fancina.
Thank you, Alex. Emily, will you call roll?
Sure. Sue Busenberg,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Hallie Cox,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna Nemec-Louisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Becky Spratford,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg,
Yes.
Beth Teppen,
Yes.
Alex Encina.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Next, we'll move on to the regular meeting of July 24th. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes of the July 24th, 2020 Rails Board meeting?
So moved. This is Hallie.
Thank you, Hallie.
I'll second Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Emily, will you please call roll?
Sure. Sue Busenberg,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Hallie Cox,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna Nemec-Louisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Becky Spratford,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg,
Yes.
Beth Teppen,
Yes.
Alex Encina.
Yes.
Next up is Jim Krieger with the financial report. Jim?
Am I unmuted now?
You are.
You are.
Okay, thank you. You have we've completed the first month of fiscal year 2021 now, and you have the report for the month of July. And the highlights are we have 13.2 million in unassigned general fund cash, and that would cover a little bit over 14 months of operations. We did receive one area per capita grant payment of $1,072,500 in late, July 31st. You don't see that on the revenue and expense payment because it was still eligible to be applied as fiscal year 20 revenues, but it did show up in our cash. We still have 5 payments of the same amount totaling $5,362,500 that remain outstanding, and the timing of when we receive that is uncertain. They are all in the pipeline, plus even 1 or 2 for fiscal year 21 already. But it's up to the controller when that money is dispersed. Our July we have resumed delivery operations, and our administrative employees continue to work primarily at home. Our July revenues, general fund revenues, were $837,393 below budget, primarily from the lower grant fund revenue, APC revenues. Our investment income is also starting out well below budget as we had budgeted a 1% rate, which was the approximate market rate at the time the budget was prepared in March and April. And now it's down to less than 0.25%. So it's declined from 1% to less than 0.25% in just a couple months. And it can move the other way just as rapidly. Our expenditures were $77,740 below budget. Part of the expenditures being below budget were just a delay in or the normal delay in receiving bills for July. A lot of funds that we paid in July were pertainable to fiscal year 20. But we will continue to be below budget, particularly on travel expenses due to the pandemic restrictions. And we are deferring the major expenditures that we can defer until the state funding situation for this year becomes clear. And in the special revenue funds, we did obtain a grant to continue the Census 2020 program. It will continue actively through September. We just had it is not included in our budget because at the time of the budget we didn't know whether we would have this program or not. But we were just approved a budget amount of $254,540 this program. The other active program is the L2 replacement program, which is very close to going live, and this will be very active for the first couple months, and then a few, and then less activity through the remainder of the year. Is there anything I can answer? Any questions? Okay. Can we then move on to the approval of expenditures? The next item. The listing of July expenditures is at the end of the report. The total was $1,934,117.67. And this is about twice the normal amount for a month from operations. But July is far and away our most active month for group purchases, and we did well over $600,000 of group purchases. And that money is recouped. It's all billed immediately to the libraries that participated, and they generally pay back within a month. So we will be recouping that. And it's also the first month of the quarter, and we make our LSAP support payments that month, and that's a considerable amount. So those were the main items that really inflated the amount for the month. Do I have any questions on this?
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any other discussions or questions for Jim? Okay. May I have a motion for approval of the expenditures for July 2020?
So moved.
Becky,
Alex,
I'll second it, Becky.
Okay. Did you get that, Emily?
I sure did. Alex motioned and Becky seconded.
Right. Okay. So, Emily, will you call roll?
Sue Brusenbark,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Haley Cox,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny,
Yes.
Sarah McComb Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna Namek-Luisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Becky Stratford,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg,
Yes.
Beth Hubbins, Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
So
thank
next we come to the reports section of the meeting. And we start with the reports from the president. At this point, I do not have anything to report. We'll move to reports from the committees. The Advocacy Committee met yesterday. Our two key things that we talked about were the ILA trustee committee, our trustee group, and so we were working with ILA to have more communication with that group so that we could increase some better additional work with them. And then we are doing a session at ILA on advocacy with the different groups, academic, school librarians, corporate librarians, and so we were working towards that going forward. So those were the two takeaways from our meeting yesterday. So anything else, Deidre, on that?
No, I think that's
it. Consortia, Paul.
The consortium committee has not met since we last met.
Okay. Executive committee has met this last month. Policy committee, Tom.
We did not meet.
Okay. Resource sharing committee.
The Resource Sharing Committee has not met, but they are scheduled to meet in September. And I did speak to Sharm Runke, who did agree to be reappointed also.
Okay, good. Thank you. Universal Service Committee, Sue.
Did not meet. However, there was a really good webinar included in Dee's report with the intergovernmental agreement. So if you didn't attend it or haven't had time to view that, I would highly recommend it. I think it really clarifies, or it did to me anyway, what intergovernmental agreement is all about.
Thank you. Next up is the Rails monthly report. Deidre?
Yes, thank you. So in my report, I would draw your attention to a couple of things. I guess a big issue this week has certainly been the quarantine extension. Happy to discuss that. The Hull House exhibit, which is, I think, an exciting new virtual exhibit project that we're working on, and I'm really happy that we'll be able to share that with all of our member libraries, at least virtually. So that's was good to work on something positive that you could like do and say almost like not completely checked off, but it was like a project that would benefit users and libraries. It was a nice change. I attached a letter from the wonderful Karen Egan, who is also on our call. And we are going to be applying for a grant to the State Library to purchase additional ebooks. This is comes through the Federal CARES Act, as an official name that I don't, here it is, Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act. Grants funds for a number of projects in Illinois libraries, and this is just one that is for the systems. And I imagine Karen will talk more about it in her report. Let's see. Also included the our draft of the service of the month and board development topics for these meetings. And this is not written in stone by any stretch of the imagination. If things come up that we need to move things around, we can. And if you have other ideas, happy to hear those too. But this is what we have in mind for the year at this point. Happy to answer any questions.
So, Deirdre, I was going to ask about the CARES Act thing. So do we know, I know it's early days, but do we know specifics, like, is that going to go out to LSAPs? Is it going to go out to individual libraries? Is it not going out past rails? I mean,
so there's a few different projects, okay. and I hope Karen's going to talk about the other one. Okay. She's better at doing. I'm sure be better at doing the e-read, the ebook grant is is just for system. All the systems are going to get a certain amount of money to buy ebooks. And then, so we will add that to our ebook collection, which will then be made available to anybody who's an e-read member.
Got it.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Deirdre, since Scott brought up ebooks, I know in an earlier meeting it had been discussed that Rails was going to be looking at other platforms.
Yes.
For eRead Illinois. Is that still in the works?
Yes. It did get delayed, disrupted. But yes, it hasn't been forgotten. It is not something that we don't intend to do. It's just been, and Layla's on the call. And Monica also. I mean, do you want to answer that? You might have a better answer than me.
I mean, typically we do a lot of those kinds of entry-level kind of negotiations and information at conferences. So there were some kind of beginning conversations that started to happen at PLA this year, but because of the delays and because there were no in-person conferences with ALA, some of those meetings where we normally have them just didn't take place. So we're just having to look at new options to really make sure that the vendors who might be available understand what our needs are and make sure that we are able to express, because it's a very complicated piece because of the schools and the public library pieces and all the different pieces that they need. So just knowing who is actually able to do that piece and then looking at competitive pricing is more complex than it might initially look, but it is definitely still in process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Excuse me, may I interrupt you a moment? Is there someone on the phone? Is that Percy? Do you unmute yourself and answer?
This is Percy.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Percy. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
So just a little more about that. When Greg McCormick was telling us about this, he was focused, and we are too, on the educational opportunity here for public library, well, not just public, but for the fact that remote learning needs more e-resources support. So we're very much thinking about K-12 resources, which there's not a lot there right now. So,
and a lot of the schools or librarians, even the ones that are really good, are unaware of how to access what they can. I volunteer at my local school library, and just in our last LaGrange board meeting, they said they had worked with the different LRC directors just to show them what they did have access to.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were Rails resources, and they were thankful for it.
Yep.
And they, she knew it was there, but she didn't know what, and so it was that connection. It's a great opportunity of connection also between the public libraries and the school libraries.
Exactly.
That I think that we should also foster that too.
Right. Which reminds me that that's kind of the focus of one of our IL footprints. Is that sort of relationship between libraries, the ecosystem kind of,
It's just, and I have a child right now e-learning at home as we speak.
I was just gonna say, I think that same exact story is happening all over the place, and it saddens me a little bit that it took an emergency like this to bring everybody to the table to talk to one another, but at least it's happening, and we're all sharing back and forth and trying to do what we can to help.
So we'll see.
Sounds like someone's falling down the stairs.
So I know, there's a lot of, there's some extraneous noise out there, so if you're not muted and you're not talking, please mute yourself. See if there was, I guess those are the highlights. Does anybody have anything they want to comment on or ask me at this point? You are going to be hearing more from Anna and Layla about e-resources, as a matter of fact. And then later on, Monica and Grant are going to talk about, this is in our Service of the Month report, about delivery and all that. But any questions now? Okay.
So do we want to talk about the Service of the Month?
I think is that what's next?
I think that's next.
Okay.
Point 3. Point 2. Which is the Rails e-resources, which is Anna and Layla.
Hi, everybody. Is there a way for me to... Hi. Is there a way for me to share my screen, or is everybody okay just pulling up the PDF that I added to the packet? Or let me see if I can.
You can share your screen.
Okay, fantastic. All right, y'all can see that, right? This is the PDF you all have, that e-resources for all types of libraries.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to talk really quickly about e-resources some e-resources that Rails provides to libraries. What I've done with this PDF here is I've put sort of a summary of each of the services that we provide, and then I've included some information on what's new with each of those, some of the new things we've done in the last year. So I will go through that, and then if you have questions, just let me know. I'll hand it off to Layla in a minute. So the first service I wanted to highlight that Rails provides is the Biblioboard library. This is our statewide e-content collection. We provide, I want to say it's over 44,000 items to e-content items to everyone in the state of Illinois. This is a collection that anybody can access. They don't need to have a library card, they don't need to have a login, and all of the materials are available for simultaneous use. So it's a really exciting collection for that reason. What's new with Biblioboard? So within just this summer, within the last couple months, we've added a whole bunch of content to the collection. So we worked with Amy, our census coordinator, to put together an Illinois Census 2020 collection, which was, I believe, was over 500 items. Correct me if that number is wrong. Okay, that's right. So we did this sort of in tandem with the idea, the slogan that we care about the count, we care about the census count, and we also care about the people of Illinois. And so a lot of the titles are sort of self-care and wellness focused. And then we also have a large collection of titles that are about Illinois history and local history, like those Arcadia publishing titles. So that's really an exciting collection to be able to share with everyone. We also added 35 new Recovering the Classics titles. So this is a collection of books that are in the public domain, mostly classic novels, but some nonfiction books as well. And what the publisher has done with those is they've solicited contemporary artists to create these new, really exciting covers for the books, and so that it can sort of engage classic texts with new audiences. And then those cover images are made available to download to libraries, so you can take these beautiful book covers and use them however you'd like in your library. So we've added, like I said, about 35 of those, and we're going to be adding 15 more soon. And then we also have a collection of about 100 short stories that we've added to the Biblioboard library as well. Aside from content, something new that we've done with Biblioboard recently is that we created a usage dashboard for members, which is new. So libraries can now go onto the Rails website and take a look at how their community is using Biblioboard, which is really exciting. The next service I want to highlight is Inki.org. This is our suite of self-publishing tools and resources. So it includes access. Like Biblioboard, it's available to everybody in the state of Illinois. You don't need a library card to access it. It includes Pressbook software, which is software that you can, if you're a writer and you've written a book, you can take the file your book that you've written and put it into Pressbook software and create an ebook file like an EPUB or a PDF. Essentially, you can self-publish your own book and then go and sell it on Amazon, or you could submit it for inclusion in the Biblioboard library. So Inki.org is also a pipeline to get your self-published book into a library collection, which I think is pretty cool. So this service, what's new with it, we launched it less than a year ago. Feels like a lifetime, but in reality it was less than a year ago, back in October. And since then, we've had 175 ebooks created via Pressbooks, and then 71 ebooks have been submitted for inclusion into the Biblioboard library. So our Biblioboard library collection has actually grown by 71 self-published books. And of those, 15 were selected by Library Journal as really sort of the best of the best of self-published ebooks. And those were then included in a national collection called Indie Author Project Select. That's pretty exciting. And then I'm going to talk about eRead Illinois, which is our flagship e-content program. I know it was mentioned a little bit already. And this is our popular materials collection hosted on Baker and Taylor's Access 360 platform. I've put sort of a breakdown of the membership in eRead Illinois. So libraries do need to opt into it. They have to join. All 4 types of libraries are in there. We've got academic, public, school, and special. The largest cohort is public libraries, just under 250 of those. But I do want to acknowledge that school libraries, we are up to, when I put this PDF together about a week ago, we were up to 179 school libraries, which is 20 more than we had a month ago. And so usually membership in eRead Illinois stays pretty level. We've got some libraries that drop out every year and some libraries that join every year. And this year we've just seen an explosion growth in membership. 20 libraries is a lot to onboard in a year for us, and it's a lot to onboard in a month. So that's pretty exciting and I think understandable with some of the sort of 11th hour decisions that schools are making about whether or not they're doing remote learning or hybrid learning or preparing for the possibility to eventually do remote learning. I've got a lot of school librarians reaching out to us about eRead. So I want to highlight a couple of things that are new with eRead beyond schools signing up. And one of those is that this actually is something that we started before the pandemic, is that we started working on the process of expediting sign up for eRead Illinois and renewal for eRead Illinois. So before it was, it was several email back and forths and a lot of manipulating Word documents, and it would take a long time to get a library signed up and added into eRead Illinois. And I really have to hand it to Brian Smith and Wayne Dixon, who helped us to automate the process. And so it is much better. I cannot imagine trying to do this, volume of signing up and renewing libraries the way that we used to do it, the way things are now. So I think I can speak for Layla, but I am over the moon about how it's going lately. So I really, kudos to that. Along with that, the eRead Illinois website was redesigned this year. Brian did a lot of work on that. And then understandably, we have also increased outreach and support for our school libraries. We're doing a lot of work with school librarians. We had a webinar yesterday on e-resources, e-content resources for school libraries. We expect to continue that throughout the year. And then a couple of other things I want to highlight really quickly before I hand it off to Layla, just some other e-content stuff that's going on at Rails. We did set up a e-content issues pulse page on the Rails website about a year ago, and along with that, a networking group, which is active, and an email list. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then a really exciting thing that we did, earlier this year is that when COVID-19 related library closures started happening, I know we at Rails started to notice the circulation of our e-content collections, especially eRead Illinois, started to change a little bit. It started to shift, and we were curious to see if that was the case across the board in libraries. And so we worked with Grant Halter and got usage statistics from we got daily usage stats from 7 other content consortia. Most of them were Overdrive groups, and then one Cloud Library, CloudLink group, and took a look to see if what we were noticing with circulation trends were happening across the board. and we published that as an OpenGov story. And we looked at February, March, and April, and we compared 2019 to 2020 to see what the change was. And I don't think I'm spoiling it for anybody to say that we saw an increase in circulation late March, early April, but some other interesting things too. So I encourage you to head to that story and check it out if you get a chance. And I'm going to hand it off to Layla and let Layla tell you about Simply E.
Simply E is a library-developed open source app that simplifies the library user's experience in finding, borrowing, and reading library ebooks. And basically, it does this by combining the different ebook platforms such as Overdrive, Baker and Taylor, and Biblioboard to a single interface using that app. We at Rails continue to work with Massachusetts Library System, New York Public Library, and Minitex on the IMLS Simply E for Consortia grant project that actually ends at the end of September 2020, although we will continue to work on this project via Minitex. Anna Beam and I attend monthly Simply E Council meetings via Zoom to discuss technical issues as well as research and development that are happening across the nation. We also work with vendors and other library systems on costs, support, marketing, and strategies so that we can implement the program when it's appropriate. Current issues that are in various stages of resolution include the Overdrive audiobook integration, integration of local collections, and the still unsatisfactory performance of the Android app. They're also working or talking about working with, or in discussion with Hoopla. That's been something that has been certainly libraries have asked about. There are plans to integrate it, but it will take a year or two, and it's primarily because of the complexity of the back-end issues in Hoopla. So originally, Simply E was developed at New York Public Library, and it was very successful there. Rails, of course, is a much more complex landscape. We are multi-consortial. We have 83 standalone public libraries, multiple ILS, different ebook consortia, which don't always line up to the ILS consortia. So the interesting thing is that these challenges in our landscape enable important troubleshooting, and not only at the local level, but also at the national level. And one important component of our research and development at Rails has been the pilot program at the Pinnacle Library Cooperative. Matt Hammermeister, the ILS manager for Pinnacle, leads the program for the 6 Pinnacle libraries. And this program has really been helpful in illuminating and troubleshooting various issues, as well as testing stability and performance of the app. So I'm going to give a shout out and thank you to Matt and the Pinnacle libraries. You can see on the handout, we have a screenshot from the Fountaindale Public Library. And that just is a quick illustration of what you see when you look at the Simply E app. That screenshot does include titles from 3 vendors, so it's fairly seamless when you're looking at it like this. There are titles from Baker and Taylor on that screenshot, Overdrive, as well as Biblioteca. Another important feature in Simply E is the ability to control what you see on the screen rather than having the vendor control it so that the high demand titles show first, which really drives up those holds for libraries. So instead of having high demand titles featured first, you can have available titles featured first. So moving forward, with Simply E and Rails, about half of our Rails libraries have 3 or more ebook vendors, mainly Biblioboard, Overdrive, and Baker and Taylor. This app would, of course, streamline ebook processes for these users, and when Hoopla is included, the impact will be amplified further. So we will continue to contribute to this important initiative and lay the groundwork to move forward when the time is appropriate. So we've included some links at the bottom of the handout I would urge you, if you don't already have links to inti.org and illinois.biblioboard.com on your websites, to please include those so that your patrons can access them easily. And our contact information is at the bottom of the page. We're certainly happy to discuss any more of these programs with anybody further. And if there are any questions in the chat that we have right now, we'd be happy to address those. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Anna and Leila.
And I have one final thing, if you don't mind. Going back to the Service of the Month draft report, or draft topic list, you'll see that some of your names are on there, board members, as assisting with the board development this year. And so I think Emily has reached out to you about your participation, and I think Mary did too. So if you haven't confirmed that you can do this at the time that we put it on here, could you let Emily know? We can, as I said, we can change this around, but we like to get it finalized. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go to the Illinois State Library report.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. As Dee mentioned earlier, we've got several grant offerings open, so I'll go ahead and start with those. We did receive $1 million and some change in the Federal CARES Act fund from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and we are using them in 3 ways. First, public libraries are able to apply for up to $500 per building to clean the library or purchase personal protective equipment such as masks, gloves, hand sanitizers, anything that they need to disinfect the library and protect the safety and prevent the spread of COVID-19 in their library. The advantage with this grant is public libraries are able to backdate their purchases to July 1. And so if you had initial expenses, then anything after July 1 could qualify for reimbursement under this grant program. Second one is digital network access for Illinois libraries. And what we discovered is that there are many libraries out there that don't even offer basic Wi-Fi to their communities. And that's what this grant is intended to address. There are many students who have been displaced by COVID-19 and disadvantaged library patrons who don't have reliable internet options aren't able to connect to remote learning or access library services online. And this grant helps bridge that gap, I guess, for lack of a better word. So public libraries, school libraries, community colleges can apply for up to $10,000 to improve the capacity of the library to extend internet to their community. Now, I want to make a quick distinction here. This is not to purchase devices that circulate like hotspots, because the other thing we discovered is when the state shut down last time and those hotspots were checked out, that was great for that family, but it didn't help the library's capacity. And so what this grant is intended to do is if you need to run a T1 line, or if you need to set up a tower that you can tap into the white space in the radio to increase the frequency of the internet to the block around the library, or extend it into the parking lot, or even establish it for the first time. That's what this grant is intended. This is all about the library's capacity. The third offering, as Dee mentioned, is for Rails, Heartland, Chicago Public Library System, and Carly to add to their ebook collections for the benefit of all of their member libraries. So we're really excited to be able to be offering these 3 grant offerings with the CARES Act money, which is provided by the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And they have set it up so it's an extension of the Library Services and Technology Act money. All three of these grant applications are due September 30th. So we've got them coming in now fast and furious. So I hope if your library is eligible, you'll apply for it. Other grant opportunities is we have a book opportunity going on right now. And I was thinking as Anita and you guys were talking about the e-resources for all types of libraries, being able to subscribe to purchase ebooks through that program would be wonderful for some school or public libraries that want to increase their ebook collection and make them available for students or patrons across their areas. They can purchase books in any format, and I'm talking like ebooks, large print, graphic novels. They can't purchase reading devices. We've had questions about, can I purchase a reader and have things preloaded on it? That's not the intent. It's to get the actual books, but it can be audio, it can be virtual, it can be tangible, real books. Those are also due September 30th, and the library can apply for up to $4,900 per agency. The school district library grant is currently open, and we're accepting applications. They're coming in fast and furious. And you might be aware that the appropriation to the secretary's budget was increased to allow up to 88 cents per student. That's up from 75 cents. And the minimum grant award will be $850 rather than $750. So that's exciting news as well, that there's finally an increase in the library grants. That's all the grant programs going on right now. I do have to add, we're excited that the system annual report information has been emailed to the systems. I know you guys love more reports, but we're really looking forward to reading about all the wonderful things that you do. And that and your audit by September 30th as well. So do you have any questions for me about anything happening at the state library? It's a beautiful day here in Springfield.
You didn't, this is Becky, you didn't answer, you didn't say this, the grant about the internet. So like,
Yes.
I know libraries who have already spent money on upping their Wi-Fi. Is that one also backdated or not? You didn't say.
No, that one is not updated, Becky. You can't backdate the expenses. And we really debated that back and forth because that is a competitive offering, and we don't want to set the expectation that getting the grant is automatic and have somebody assume that they're going to get the money, spend it, and then not receive the grant. So those will actually start with money being able to be spent December 1st.
Right, all right, it's a long way.
That was the long way to get around to, no, they can't do that. For those of you in public libraries, we expect the public library to go live in October. But other than that, any questions from anybody?
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Thank you much.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, so we will move on to new business. First off is item number 8.1, which is the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative. Deidre, do we have a discussion and possible action requested?
Yes, well, we have, in your packet, there is a draft charge. I don't know that I'm not, it certainly doesn't have to be approved today. This is the first time you've seen it. I would be shocked if you didn't have some suggestions that we could go back and look at. This is what I've gotten to so far in terms of the charge. This was brought up last month by the board, I think by Diane specifically, that there should be a board committee about equity, diversity, and inclusion. I think that's a great idea. So I'm envisioning this having board members, Rail staff, and member library staff on it as well. beyond, I mean, we have a climate team that is being appointed for the work that we're going to do within Rails. I think probably a good idea for somebody at least to be, like a liaison from that group. Don't know how many board members, we got some feedback about this committee and who wants to be on it, but, that's still up in the works too, who should be the chair, how many members, how to select them. So all of this is, I'm interested in your feedback. The way we've done, just as an example, I think probably the resource sharing committee or the universal service committee is probably a good example or good examples. So in one case, the chair is a board member. Sue is chair of universal service resource sharing. We have a Charm, who's not on the board, so we can do either. We have, I think, in both cases, we did identify sort of, we wanted to have, in the case of the resource sharing committee in particular, we wanted to have, libraries that were in consortia, libraries that weren't. I don't know that matters so much here. We'd probably want some geographic representation. We can certainly think about this more internally too, but I just wanted to get some initial feedback from you guys. Yes,
I have
Becky.
a question as a new board member. How many people are on those larger committees that look outside?
It does vary a lot. The Universal Service Committee has, I don't know, maybe 9 people or so, or maybe even more. We have a number of directors, like Carol Metal is on that committee, Lynn Stainbrook. It kind of, because of that issue, we wanted to
No, I agree. I
Yep.
just was trying to get a sense of
Right. I mean,
large one.
Right. I don't think there's no. I mean, I guess you don't want it to be too big because then you can't get anywhere. But it's pretty organic. So.
Fairly typical, there's 2 board members on the committees?
Yeah.
Because I think about the committees, 2 seems to be the common number for board members anyway.
Yes, we generally speaking have 2, you're right. But I don't think it needs to be, I mean, it could be more. I think it should be 2 anyway, but.
Does the climate team have a chair?
Unofficially you, right?
Oh, I guess it's unofficially me.
So I was just thinking if the climate team has a chair, then that person should probably be on this committee, but
Yeah.
maybe like Universal Services, it should be a board member because it's a board committee. There needs to be representation from other similar committees with their chair. That's like my instinct at least.
Well, my instinct is to, for something like this, I think that we definitely need some outside folks on the.
The members?
Yes.
Oh,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not just comprised of just board members.
Oh, definitely, yes.
So we want to, invite some,
Yes.
librarians or people like
Right.
that. And employees maybe.
Yep, sure, and I think, we might want to have some, we want to have a range of, maybe libraries that have already embarked upon this and have done work, maybe libraries that haven't, like I say, geographic, different sizes, you got urban, you got rural.
Mixture type of library, I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Like even if we mandate.
Online have anything to comment?
Yes, I was wondering if it's possible. Bloomington Public Library has already moved forward on an EDI internally in the library. We've talked about it just a little bit at our board meetings, and this is just, it includes library staff from different areas in the library. And I'm thinking about attending and, like sitting in and asking them questions, because I think we need some kind of an apparatus, a framework to proceed with our committee if we're going to start it. Or I could also talk to some other libraries as well to see if they have started moving forward as far as implementing an EDI committee or a means to start this in their library. There's just so many. I know we started at Bloomington, they started with the collection development, and they're taking a look at the collection first. And that was several months ago. But I think they're being a little more inclusive because they're really going forward with this, from what I heard at our last meeting. And so I think it would be good for me to sit in and share some of the ideas that they've come up with.
Sure, that would be great. And we know, I mean, we do know of some libraries that have been quite active in this area. Some of them have presented as for Rails programs. A few years ago, Richard Kong from Skokie came and spoke to the board about the work that when we first started talking about this. We have a survey that's currently live on our EDI page asking libraries to contribute. It's one of our newest Pulse page. So we're getting information about that, but obviously any more information that you can bring back would be great. And, we're happy. I mean, I think it's definitely staff job to develop this charge. I just wanted to give you like the bare bones and see if you thought it was going in the right direction.
Was there a consultant that you were going to be bringing in for the climate? Yes. And who was that? Who was that?
That is Elizabeth Lindsay Ryan, Biz Lindsay Ryan. She's from Evanston, and we'll certainly run this by her as well. And
it seems like once the committee is sort of up and going, it might be really beneficial to have not as part of the committee, but have a consultant maybe just come meet with the committee, like the first 1 or 2 meetings, to help them have a good sense of their work. I know Skokie also has done a lot of work in this area already, for example.
So I don't know that this has happened since I've been on the board. So how will this happen? I mean, do you want us to all, the staff or the board or a combination, to submit names and then you just call it down to a workable committee? I mean, how do you come up with how do you find the people to go on the committee?
Well, like I said, the best examples are universal service and resource sharing. And so staff, we worked on the charges so you guys could have something to react to. I mean, I think that makes the most sense. In terms of the composition, it was definitely a case of in the resource sharing committee of wanting to get the right, all different types of libraries, community colleges, automated libraries, Same with, with universal service, who's dealt with this a lot, who has a lot of issues. For example, on that committee, as I said, Carol Meadow. We all probably know Carol Meadow's history with trying to get more people into the library district.
Right.
Catherine Yanikowski, big, strong proponent of universal service. Joliet has issues, so we try, so it was volunteer. Gail Bush, she showed up at my door. She's on the community college board for Oakton. This is a big issue for, she wants community colleges to have a role. So I don't have the perfect answer, but I think we all think about it. And, we can ask for volunteer. I mean, you can never take all the volunteers, but I think that is certainly a route to go too. So.
Sure.
Yeah, I think if you're interested, if you know people who are interested, please let Emily know.
Yeah.
Is that the best thing?
I think that would be the best thing.
Yeah. And so then we can, kind of discuss that.
Yeah. So we can work on refining this charge more. We can identify some, like the libraries that we already know about, and put an article in the e-news and see where we get.
I do love the idea of including communities that haven't even been able to start thinking about this.
Right.
Too, though I don't want us to just include the quote-unquote experts, because I found with the EDI training I do, you get a lot of and I present with Annabelle Mortensen from Skokie and just did, and you get a lot of they're Skokie. Their community's diverse. It's easier for them. And it's not, but I hope we're making sure we reach out to smaller, maybe majority white communities who don't think this is an issue. people who haven't even thought about it, because their voice should be heard too.
Right. I think we definitely want people who have an interest in it too. And
Right, yeah.
And definitely we want that feedback from Bloomington.
yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
yes, 100%.
Yep.
And I think those last few things we said, just my opinion, are more important than making sure there's a big library and a small library and a
Right.
medium
Yes.
library. You know, it's more important to get the right people, not just fill all the usual,
Exactly.
you know, outlines.
Excellent point.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a little while because it is, you know, really a new kind of initiative, you know, to get the right committee and the right charge. But
Right.
we'll get there. We've waited this long.
I
We
say
need to
better get it right than rush it,
Right.
just to say we have it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I sent you, I was just involved in a program this last week from the Girl Scouts.
Yes.
We did a program from Wharton, from the University of Pennsylvania,
Okay.
on this exact thing.
Oh.
Because they're thinking about the same thing.
Yep.
All these organizations are. And I sent you the program that we went through.
Okay. Yes.
And so, you know, that's, you know, those are the kinds, it's just an outline. So,
Right.
I mean, it's the same kind of, that probably Bloomington is probably looking at. It can inform us, it can, you know, help us look at maybe what the charge of the committee can do.
Right.
But at the same time, it goes back to what you're saying, is that, Becky, is that it's not the libraries that are thinking about this it's the ones that are not thinking about it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the ones that we need to be targeting, so.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we don't make them feel alienated because they're not, and then not even want to join the conversation,
Right. It's just they haven't thought about it.
right? Or they haven't had time. I mean, you know, there's a lot going on.
Right, so, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, we'll keep working on
I
it.
don't think we need a motion.
No. I just didn't want to, if people were really like, yes, this is perfect, which I didn't think it was, but, okay, great.
Okay, well, move on and talk about the privacy policy for L2 users. So that's you, BJ.
Yes. So, so we are updating our privacy policy for users of L2. As this policy was originally approved by the Rails Board in 2013. These revisions are necessary to reflect the changes with the new L2, obviously. They're minor, mostly housekeeping, but some of the larger ones are clarifying the roles of groups and sponsors for events. There's added information about using event attendance history for making event recommendations and private profiles, so we want to be sure people are aware of that. I mean, obviously, all these changes were asked for by the users of L2, so. We've removed reference to payment processing because the new L2 doesn't handle financial information. I mean, there was almost never, I think that was way back in the old days when there was more paid programming. So those are the big changes. The next steps, the policy will be posted on the website along with the terms of service stating that use of L2 indicates agreement to the privacy policy. Networking and CE group representatives will agree to it as part of account approval process. And then we will do very simple letters of agreement with LSAPS, Heartland, and State Library as recommended by our attorney. That's just standard. We've done that. Yeah. So it's just some updating. So that's, I guess, the next step though is to have it approved. And you do have it in your packet as, by the way, document 8.2.
Any questions on that?
This has been reviewed by our lawyer, obviously.
Yeah, it's very thorough.
You know, when people log into the new L2, they're going to have to obviously okay the terms and conditions. Okay. So we may get questions. You guys may get questions.
Yeah, and it'll be posted.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no other questions, may I have a motion and a second for the approval of the privacy policy for L2 users as presented?
So moved. This is Jenna.
I'll second
I'll
it.
second Chris.
Let Chris have it.
Moved by Jenna, seconded by Scott. Jenna, will you call roll? I mean, Emily, will you call roll?
Sure. Stu Busenberg.
Yes.
Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Kelly Cox.
Yes.
Percy Harris. Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Chris Kenny.
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase.
Yes.
Paul Mills.
Yes.
Jenna Namek-Louisi.
Yes.
Scott Poynton.
Yes.
Becky Spratford.
Yes.
Thomas Stagg. You hear us, East Peoria?
Yes.
Yes.
Beth Teppen.
Yes.
Alex Messina.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up is our board compliance with state and federal laws. So this is discussion only. Deidre.
Yeah, so the area and per capita grant application, which we do in the spring, has as well as our own bylaws, require that board members certify that you have all reviewed or are in compliance with various state and federal statutes, which you have a memo from Julie Tappendorf that goes through what these various items are. I think there's 13 of them. So this is really just informational. What we have done in the past is just supplied this memo. It's just the first year that we had to do this, we had an agenda item for each one of these. This goes back a few years now. Each of the individual acts or laws, ordinances, whatever. And that seemed to be overkill. We never really discussed them. So we asked Julie to put together this memo a few years ago, and so we're just supplying it to the board again. Does that make sense? I think the best thing is for you all to read it, and then at a future meeting, we've got time, if you have questions about any of these, we can certainly ask Julie to talk about more of them, or some of them, or find out information in other ways. I think most of them are pretty, obviously we all know a lot about the Open Meeting Act, FOIA, maybe not so much about the Public Labor Relations Act, but the Ethics Act is, I think it was in your orientation folder, local records. Most of these, I think, the System Act, of course, everybody has that memorized. ADA. Anyway, just let me know if you need more information about any of these, because you do have to, at the APC, certify that you're in compliance, which I'm sure you all are, but don't want you to say anything that you don't know you're saying.
Any questions?
That's it. There's no action on that.
Okay. So if you do have any questions, you can. I'm sure that Deidre can get you to the right person.
Yep.
For that.
And this is a good summary.
Yeah. Next up is 8.4, update on filling the academic seat. At our July meeting, we voted to fill the academic seat by asking for nominations and then setting the interviews with the executive committee. We did ask for nominations, and so I've asked Deidre to...
We have quite a few.
Okay.
I think we have 8. If Mary's out there, she can say specifically. Yeah, we were initially
7. Oh, excuse me.
7. Okay. Thanks, Mary. I think we were initially concerned that the timing was going to be difficult to get, but wasn't, so that's terrific, and they're all really good. It's going to be a tough decision, I think. So, yeah, so just, I think just to let you know that we will, once we have an executive committee after today, then we can have a meeting of the executive committee. And I think the first meeting is going to have to be, how are we going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we can, move it along, but with 8 people and, we want to do it right. And I mean, I think being able to do this all on Zoom now will actually make it easier. But, I don't know what the executive committee is going to want to do, obviously. So in terms of interviews so just an FYI, we're working on it, but first we need the committee.
Okay, so thank you very much on that. So next up, we will move on to number 9, unfinished business. 9.1 is the committee rosters for this next fiscal year, and this is a discussion only. Was that in the board pack, or I don't believe it was it?
What's
The
discussion
committee?
only? Well, the executive committee is, you just appoint the committees.
Yeah, so
But the
I think-
executive committee is an election.
Yeah, right. So, but the committee rosters, I believe, for new committees, we have, I've called most of the folks who are new to committees. So if you have not gotten a call, the only person I couldn't get in touch with was Sue. So Sue, I think you were on the policy committee. You had volunteered for the policy committee.
Muted, Diane. Yes, I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And if that's okay with you, then that was the only one that I was unsure of. So if you're okay with that, then I think all the committees will be set then.
That's fine, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then we'll move forward with the.
Sure, and when we'll get that finalized and we'll email it out to the
Okay.
board.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Then we'll move on to 9.2, which is the executive committee election. And traditionally, if the past board president is still a member of the Rails board, they are offered the position as the at-large member of the executive committee. And since Paul is still an active member of the board, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to elect Paul Mills as the at-large member of the executive committee.
So moved, McCone Chase.
Second, Hallie.
Yeah. Emily, will you call the roll?
I don't know.
Sue Fussenberg,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Kelly Cox.
Yes.
I think Percy is gone. Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Lucy, Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Becky Spratford,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg,
Yes.
Beth Teppen,
Yes.
and Alex Vincina.
Yes.
I didn't hear my name, but this is Jenna, and I say yes.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Okay, motion is approved. Welcome back to the.
Well, thank you. It is an honor to serve.
Okay, so we will move on to number 10, board development. And our latest topic is COVID-19, as if that's not the latest topic.
It's the only
Why would
topic.
you pick that one?
Yeah. So Monica and Grant are going to chat with us today about that.
Thank you, Michael. And thankfully, we will not be talking about all aspects of COVID-19, as that would take us days and days. So Grant and I are here to talk to you a little bit about a tool that we have developed here at Rails that can show some of the progress of how libraries and Rails members in particular are reacting to COVID-19. So back in March 2020, when libraries started shutting down due to the pandemic, Rails developed a form and a shared spreadsheet that would allow libraries to report when they closed. So what that did was allow us to see through a map and through a spreadsheet what libraries were open and what libraries weren't and at what dates they closed. But as things progressed, what we determined and what of course our Rails members were asking for was a way to be able to see what libraries around them, libraries of their type or libraries geographically close to them, what kinds of services they were offering, how they were reopening, and of course, as libraries have had radically different responses according to what their community need is, we also needed the ability for libraries to be able to share their services in the moment and to have the ability to pivot and change quickly as the need arose and to see those things reported. So in June 2020, Rails staff began creating a more robust tool that would allow libraries to report those services and changes as we move forward, and whether services needed to be added or removed. Virtual services, of course, remain a hugely important piece of what area libraries are providing, and this tool shows only some of what member libraries are doing to provide the best possible response. But what you'll see in the tool is some of the in-person services that libraries are offering of all types. So Grant Halter, our Rails data coordinator and research analyst who designed the survey and tools that you're about to see, will explain how to use the tool as well as some of the most recent trends that we're seeing from Rails libraries. Grant, can you show off the tool?
So everyone should be seeing the pulse page for COVID-19 on the Rails site. I just wanted to show this in case anyone was unfamiliar with where to find the tool. It's in this first paragraph, reporting tool. When you click on that, it brings you to this Google Data Studio report with the results. Down here, you can see there's 287 responses, and that's individual libraries. We've actually gotten almost 400 total responses, but a number of libraries have updated their results as we've gone by, and we really like to see that to make sure everyone is as up to date as possible. Up here is just a list. You can find your own library, other libraries to see what they're doing, but kind of on this bottom part is kind of the core results of it. So you can break down by each of those different kind of broad categories in terms of services that libraries are offering. And it's pretty interesting, different pieces where the services are 50% yes, 50% no, like outreach services, or what catches my eye is the hosting virtual community meetings has steadily rised since we first shared the tool. It's now at 20% of libraries who have responded, and it's been increasing for a while. So that's good, and you can view these. You can click on them and filter down the rest of the report as you wish if you want to see which libraries are there. We also have this map tool, which I really like because it gives you a different kind of understanding or analysis of the results. Right now you're looking at the libraries that are offering virtual programming, so you can see blue is yes and yellow is no, so you can see just right in the snap geographically which libraries are offering those different services. I just want to highlight a few other computer devices. Was interesting how it was scattered across the state pretty equally or evenly, but between the Chicago area and rural areas. And then one other piece is this percentage of hours open. About, what's my number? Nearly half of the libraries are open 75% of the regular hours or more. So from their pre-pandemic open hours, half of the libraries are open almost the same amount at this point. And you can see again with this map, it's scattered across the state fairly. Those are all the fun things I had. If anyone has any questions, let me know.
One thing I do want to point out is that libraries of any type can go into the tool and search by their type, or search by a shared ILS, or search by county. So if libraries are particularly interested in looking at the types of libraries that are like them and seeing what the responses are like, that's something that's available to them. And also what you'll see here are only the most recent results. So if someone submits a newer result, their older results will be taken out and their newer results will be put in. And then of course in that last updated piece on the left-hand side of the screen is where you'll see the last time the library has updated the results. So we are really depending on member libraries to keep these as accurate and up-to-date as possible. But we really do want to encourage libraries of all types to enter their information into this survey, because people are really finding it a valuable tool as they're adjusting their own services and support to see what it is that they're doing and how they're doing it. But as Grant said, if you guys have any questions, we're happy to help answer them.
Monica, can you refresh our memories? If we've already done the survey once, how do we go back in to alter our answers?
All you have to do is fill out the same survey again. So just right from the Pulse page where there's a link to the survey, or you can see on the top of this tool where it says Library Reopening Survey Form, Grant's helpfully highlighting that.
Oh, yeah.
Grant.
Okay.
You can click on that and just refill it out and it'll update it with the newest information.
Okay, so you just do the whole thing again?
Just do the whole thing again.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. And just to answer Karen's question in the chat, to get to the survey, you go to the Rails homepage, then you click on this COVID-19 Pulse page, and then the survey itself and the reporting tool and map are all kind of this top paragraph.
I know libraries are using this to help make decisions in a regional, I've heard of it already. So I think that's been an excellent tool to have to help, because the choice is extremely complicated and complex, but knowing what your neighbors are doing is helpful. And I know at least where I am, there's a certain group of libraries within our little area where we're making all our decisions together on purpose.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Monica. Thank you, Grant. Just yet another example of how having Grant's ability to work with data has been fantastic.
Yeah.
And I do love the way there are multiple access points, because people take in data. Speaking of EDI issues, people take in data in different ways.
Yeah.
Some people are more visual, and some people want the numbers, and all of that's there. And I think that is extremely important also to make sure it's good to have it in different ways.
I'd like to note, actually, Grant inspired our ILS manager to actually use Google Data Studio to keep track of consortia data. It's such a fabulous tool, and there's Grant. I'll plug in for Grant. Grant actually has a recorded webinar you can watch to learn how to do Google Data Studio. There's 2 books. There's not many. There's 2 books that have been published on how to use it, and Google has a free course you can take. Also, if you like that type of instructions, again, different ways to learn things on how to do Google Data Studio as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you. That was very informative, and I know that was a lot of work for the two of you to put that together.
Yeah.
Well, and Stacy and Brian and other folks from Rails have also continued to support this product. So it's a great team, and everybody's really adding a lot of expertise there.
I hope someday we don't need the tool for this, but it would be a great tool to be doing for other services.
Of course.
Yeah.
The idea of keeping this going and using it to highlight other things would be really helpful.
It's interesting because even in the report, Dee mentioned the Whole House exhibit that's coming forward. And Grant, we were working towards exhibit map point that shows up all the exhibits that are happening all around Illinois that also uses Google Data Studio. So it's not the same information, obviously, but a lot of the same kinds of forms and gets to the same pieces in a really intuitive way, I think.
But also the idea of member feedback, because when members feel engaged in the information, they're going to use it more. So the idea that it's so easy, like Scott was saying, I just fill it out. I can do that.
Yeah.
That's important too.
Yep.
And the mapping thing is particularly relevant to Rails. I mean, it's not, it is relevant to individual libraries in terms of, precincts or neighborhoods or whatever. But in terms of members and how they work together, as you were saying, it's really been helpful to us.
Okay. So as we wind down our meeting, we always have time to have a time where board members can share any news about their area or about their library. So I wanted to open it up for board members to talk about what's going on at their particular library or in their area.
Michael, I'd like to, so our library, once again, will be an early voting site. Fountaindale Public Library District, we've been an early voting site since the 2016 presidential election, which was our first election to step into, which, you know, presidential elections always have the largest turnout, so we learned that you can have large crowds. I'm also proud that our library and many libraries in Will County will also have ballot collection drop-off boxes for folks who have registered, who asked for a mail-in ballot. Instead of, if they don't want to put it in the United States Postal Service, they can drop it off at the library. And hope we're gonna have some good synergy since people know us as an early voting center. They'll also know us as, you know, a ballot drop-off place. We developed an intergovernmental agreement with Will County regarding the ballot box and whatnot, and I sent it to Deirdre so that every library can just take our template if they, you know, wish to pursue that with their county.
So Michael, at White Oak Library District, and I think I've mentioned this in the past, prior to the school year that started in the fall of 2019, we launched a student success library card initiative. And our district is complicated when it comes to schools. We have 8 public school districts completely within or partially within our library district. Of those 8, 5 are K through 8 districts. Another K through 8 is partially in our, 5 are K through 8 is completely in our district. 2 are 1 K through 8 who's partially in our district, and a high school that's partially in our district, and then 1 gigantic consolidated K through 12 district that's partially us and partially Paul's. So last year we started with the low-hanging fruit, and we issued a brand new library card, branded and, you know, special to every child at 3 of the K through 8 schools that are completely within our library district. This year we're rolling that out to the other 2 K through 8s that are in our district, so that's a total of 5 schools. And this fall I'm happy to announce that, working in conjunction with Fountaindale Public Library District, we're going after the consolidated K through 12 Valley View School District, which is 17,000 students between, you know, our 2 library districts. So there's an awful lot of kids that are getting new library cards, and as I kind of said earlier, we didn't do this because of COVID-19. We were going to do it anyway, but it's really putting a new card in the hands of every one of those kids at a time when they need remote virtual distance, you know, access to things has really been crucial, and the schools are responding wonderfully. So we're hoping for the best there. Yeah.
That's great.
Michael, I just wanted to add that the administrative office, this is Hallie with the Kane County Law Library and Self-Help Legal Center. The Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts has exciting news that they've partnered with the Public Interest Legal Institute. I can never say that, PILI for short. And they have created some really dynamic and user-friendly guides for how to do civil appeals for the general public. So I'm going to be pushing those out via listservs and things of that nature out to the public libraries, as well as the specials, probably the schools too. So that's going to be out in the listserv soon. So I hope to do that next week. But it's a great resource for the public.
That's great. Yeah. Thanks, Hallie.
Anyone else? Janet, was your first day of school this week? How did it go?
Yes, well, I've been back on campus since last Monday. That was our first day for faculty and staff, and yesterday was our first day with our lower school students, so our junior kindergarten through 5th graders. Upper school and middle school start next week. And we have gone back on a hybrid model, so all of our kids come 5 days a week, but junior kindergarten through 8th grade come from 8 to 12 every day, and then they go home and they finish their day remotely. Our 9th through 12th graders start their day remotely, and then they come to campus from 12:30 to 4:30. So we will see how it all continues to unfold, but the kids are really excited to be back. I know I still have some big questions and big feelings, but what I have decided and where I landed last week is that the best thing that I can continue to do for my learning community is keep showing up. So I'm going to keep showing up and I'm going to do the best I can with what I have available to me. So I find that invigorating in a time when it's hard to find things that are invigorating. So here I am. I'm actually in my library right now, which is why I'm masked up, because I have to have my mask on at all times when I am in a campus space.
Good. And Sarah, what are you doing at Northern Illinois?
Well, with the plans that we had for letting students into the library were actually scaled back a bit, which I think was for the best. Previously, we were considering having all the stacks opened, and we were going to be letting people in 50 on the lower level and 50 on the first level, but we've scaled it back quite a bit. So the stacks are going to continue to be closed unless we have like an appointment basically for that. And we are paging books otherwise for people to come in and pick up. And we are still allowing patrons in the library, but it's kind of 50 patrons overall still on those 2 floors, and we've really limited where they're allowed to be in the library. The university is primarily online. We have 10 active cases among students right now, and 1 among staff members, or 2 among staff members, I think. We have a dashboard, so we're keeping close track. So all of my staff are in the library right now, and most staff probably are, because they can't really do their jobs otherwise. But here we are.
Very good. Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Yes. Okay, the next board meeting will be held on Friday, September 25th at 1 p.m. and we will review the annual report draft as well as anything discussed at this meeting.
I think Beth is saying that she'd like to talk about her experience right now, real fast.
Hi,
Chat.
thank you. Yeah, I'm a school librarian in East Moline, and we've been in session since the beginning of August. We've had students here for a 2-week period, and they are doing hybrid in the same way as others described. But I've been really impressed with our students. They've been excellent at following the directional signs and wearing their masks and, you know, sitting 6 feet apart in the classroom. It's just amazing how different the feel is. Students come in from their bus entrance or student parking lot, and they go to one of 2 spaces that, you know, they're sitting well apart from each other. It's really incredible. The one thing that I find difficult but important is that with the temperature checks and the symptom questions, you've got to really accept that any answer, anything, I have a runny nose, I have a headache, or anything like that, they're going to be excluded from school. And so, you know, the nurse was saying this morning, are there any kids left in school? Because you can imagine, you know, an allergy season that includes just about everybody. But it's helped us tremendously, and we're able to stay open when districts around us are going full remote.
Beth, I'm sorry, I didn't see you in chat. I don't see the chat here. So I'm sorry, I wasn't ignoring you. Anybody else? Okay, so like I said, our next meeting will be held on September 25th at 1 p.m. We'll review the annual report draft as well as anything else such as the EDI charge. So we'll move on to number 13, the closed session. The board will move into closed session at this point to discuss matters pertaining to personnel as per Illinois number 5 compiled statute, chapter 120, paragraph number 2, section C1, which states exceptions such as a public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects: the appointment, employment, such as employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Litigation, when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. We will now move into closed session. Live stream will stop, and we will then resume when we move out of the closed session. Non-board members, meeting participants will be moved into a waiting room until the board votes to move out of that closed session.
Because we did it separate.
No votes will be taken in closed sessions. So can I have a motion to move? Well, we're going to have to move into that, so.
Don't we have to make a motion when we go into?
So you need to vote in open session to go into closed session.
Yeah, so we have to move to.
And then and it has to be a roll call vote, obviously.
So this is Scott. I'll make a motion that we go into closed session.
Second, McCone Chase.
Don't we have, oh, you stated.
Okay, so Emily, will you call roll?
Sue Busenberg. I can't hear you. Wave, Sue.
They're muted in East Peoria too, it looks like.
Oh, my.
Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Haley Cox.
Yes.
Diane Hollister. Yeah. I can't unmute them. Chris Kenny.
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase.
Yes.
Paul Mills.
Yes.
Jenna Nemec-Luisi.
Yes.
Scott Poynton.
Yes.
Becky Spratford.
Yes.
Thomas Stagg. Beth Teppen.
Yes.
Alex Vincina.
Yes.
Okay.
Session.
Okay,
Great.
thank you. We're back, and welcome to those who've stayed with us. May I have a motion that the Rails Board move back into open session?
So moved.
We just did that.
Thank you, Haley. Can I have a second?
I'll second it. It's Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so now we'll have actions to follow up to the closed session.
No, you have to do a
No,
roll call,
Oh, we have to do the roll call, yes.
I guess.
Sue Busenbark,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Hallie Cox,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Jenna Nemec-Luisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Becky Spratford,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg,
Yes.
Beth Teppen,
Yes.
Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Okay, now we, thank you. Okay, now we will move to actions to follow up to our closed session. Let's see, how do we want to couch that?
That's the motion that you agreed
Yes,
to.
so,
So you need a motion.
yeah, so do I have a motion to advise, how did we put it, to advise?
Direct.
Proceed with
Direct, proceed.
I think
with
Monica
the-
has it.
Okay,
What we said in the meeting was to proceed with the salary adjustment as proposed by Rail,
okay.
No, by
So
HR
moved.
source.
by HR source.
Was that you, Jenna?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Okay.
Becky, second.
Becky, second that, okay. So now we'll have a roll call. She can't write fast enough.
I'm out of practice.
Do we need to clarify that? I'm sorry, do we need to clarify that motion? In terms of it,
Back again.
yeah.
Again. Yeah. Motion to proceed with the salary adjustment as proposed by HR source.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
And what?
Thought we were gonna add it and discuss.
All right,
Okay.
are we ready for a roll call?
Oh, there
Yes.
you are. Okay.
Sue
Go
Busenberg,
ahead.
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Kelly Cox,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Chris Kenny,
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase,
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Donna McLuisi,
Yes.
Scott Poynton,
Yes.
Becky Spratford,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg,
Yes.
Beth Tuppen,
Yes.
and Alex Mancina.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think this has been a long and productive meeting today, and I know we got a lot accomplished today, and at this point, I would like to adjourn the meeting at 3:21 p.m.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.